Coding made easy.
So what's up everybody, welcome to your next Java Made Easy tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to be learning about method overloading. So now let's look at something right now. We're going to make a simple method based on what we've learned in the past tutorials. We're going to make an add method, and we're going to, we got to make it static because we're in our main class that we created, and we're going to pass in two parameters, A and B, and we're just going to return the sum of A and B. Relatively simple, and we're just going to make variables. We're going to set A equals 5 and B equals 3, and then in our print line we're just going to put add, and we're just going to pass in A and B in there. So, and if you wanted to, if you just wanted to pass in values, you can put in values like that. It doesn't really matter, any value you want, but we're just going to pass a variable in there. And so what we're going to do is just going to run this, and we get our value 8. That's what we expected. 5 plus 3 is equal to 8, and we got that, and that's fine. Now let's just say that I want B to be a float, and I set it to 3.5. Now as you can see, we get an error. Well, we obviously get an error because this asks us for an int and we're passing a float. And so let's say we want to be able to do integers plus floats. Okay, so we wanted to do something like that. So we're gonna say int add integer and float, or something like that. And so we pass in our int for our first parameter. You know what, let's just make this a float. So we make our int our first parameter, and we make a float our second parameter, and then we return A plus B. And so that's fine, but then say they pass in a float in the first parameter, and then they want to pass an int in the second parameter. Okay, so now we gotta make an add integer and float, and we'll call it number 2, integer and float number 2. So now we put a float in here, and then we put an int in there. We want to make sure that it works in every single instance, and so we say return A plus B. And as you can see the problems it poses with the naming conditions and yada yada yada. Let's say we want to add 3 different values, and we want to have say they could add in anything, right? We want them to be able to add in, if they put in a float first, and then an int and an int, or int, a float and an int, or int and a float. We'd have to create methods for each and every scenario, and so it becomes troublesome having to come up with names names for actually doing it. And what if we could actually have all the methods have the exact same name, and allow Java to figure out which version you're actually talking about? And we can do that with method overloading. So the way method overloading works is like this. You can have multiple methods with the exact same name as long as their parameter signatures are different. And what do I mean by that? So if I have, say I have float, and I put add, and I put int A, int B, this is not going to work, because the parameter signatures are the exact same, and it won't know which one in order to call. But let's just say I do this, or if I change this to, say, a float, then as you can see, this runs quickly because we don't have a return value. But once we return a value, as you can see, everything is fine. We have no complications. And the reason why this is fine and we have no complications is because it can distinguish which one to call based on the parameters you put in. As long as the parameters don't match any other method name with the exact same name, then you're good to go. So let's take this example for example. So we want to say, okay, if they put in a float first and then an integer second, then we're going to call this one. And if they just put in 2 integers, we're going to call this add method. And let's make our third one, and we're going to say add. The first one we're going to put in is an integer, the second one we're going to put is a float, and then we're going to say return A plus B. And voila, as you can see, the error is gone from here, because it said, okay, let's get rid of this. So when we were here, it says, okay, you pass in an integer first and a float second. So let's check the signature. It asks for integer, great, but the next parameter is an integer. So we can't be calling this add method. It checks this right here, and it says, okay, the first parameter you put is an int, but we require a float to be first, so it can't be this one. And then because it's not any of them, because there's no other add methods, it says, okay, there's a red squiggly because it doesn't match the right signature. But once you put this last one here, it says, okay, so the first parameter requires an int, which we pass in. So let's pass in this, so this is right. And the second parameter, they pass in a float. And second parameter is a float. So we must be talking about this add method right here. And so it will execute this one. And so that's how you do method overloading. So you can have methods, multiple methods with the exact same name. As long as they have different parameter signatures, you can call them by the exact same name, and Java will determine which one to call. So just to show you that it's calling the right one, to show you I'm not lying, I'll just put third. So this is the third one, and let's run this. As you can see, it says third, and then it returns and then it displays the value right there. And voila, it called the right add method. If we switch this around, so let's put BA, so we're passing in a float, sorry about that, we're passing a float, then an integer. So it's going to be calling this one. So let's just put second, and let's run this. As you can see, it says second. And then if we pass in two integers, so let's change this to an integer and 3, then we have two integer parameters. So that means it's going to be calling this right here. And just to prove to you, we're just going to put first, and we're going to execute. As you can see, it says first, and then it returns the value. So anyways, that's it for the method overloading. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment and subscribe. Don't forget to like my page on Facebook. Don't forget to follow on Twitter. And don't forget to sign up on my website. That's it, and bye for now.